Hey guys, I'm part of the CAD team here at Herndon Robotics, and today we're going to be looking at Fusion 360, and we're going to be teaching you guys how to use it. I have one of our students, Vinayak, with me here today, and we're going to be going through just learning the basics and getting him introduced to the software. So we have a team set up. I'll do a separate tutorial for teams later because they can be a bit more complicated. But for now, you're just going to see a screen like this. You're going to have all your projects on the left and untitled and an untitled project right here. And this is how it'll be default when you start. And if not, it'll look like this, and you just have to click this 3x3 dots in the top left that say Show Data Panel, and it will pull up all of this, and you can change the settings. You can see only my projects shared with me and all that other stuff. So what you do is you just click Create New Project in blue, and after about a few seconds, it'll give you the option to name it. I already have one, and I don't really want to create an unnecessary one, but it's pretty simple. And once that project is created, you can enter a project by just double clicking on it by double left clicking on it. My apologies. And then inside, you can create new folders and you can upload work. So I'm created the student's work since this is a tutorial, and I have mine and Vinayak's folder. Let's say we had someone like I don't know, Mr. Humans, who's really good at CAD, join us. I just click new folder, type Mr. Humans, and now it gets automatically sorted into the file. However, we don't need that, so I can just delete it. And before we go any further, I'm going to show you how to save a file. So all you have to do, Vinayak, are you watching the screen share to make sure you can
I
see?
am.
All right, good. So what you can do is just hit File. Oh, sorry, not File. So once you have your once you want to save your file, you just really need to hit Save in the folder that you want to do it. So if I hit Save here, it save it in the student's work folder, not in Aiden or Vinayak. So I want to load my folder, then hit Save, and then I can also change this here, which is really nice. I can even change, where it's going. So if I wanted to copy a file, that's pretty useful. But I can just come here, I can go to mine, and then I can just type, let me name this tutorial 1, and then hit save. And now it's saved. And the only reason once it finishes loading that's blank is because that's going to be a preview of what's on the screen. But since there's nothing on the screen right now, there really is nothing to preview. So I'm going to actually load a file in for me and Vinayak really quickly. Alright, so I found a file I want to teach you guys how to view. So I'll leave the download link for this in the description, and I'll show you how to upload it as well. But I'm just going to show you right now. I can just hit Save As, because it's already saved. Then just come here and then move to Tutorial, Students Work, Aiden, and then I'm actually going to put it in Vinayak's folder. Actually, I'll put it just in the tutorial and I'll move it around later, and I'll show you how to move it then. But at the most basics, you just want to learn how to move around the folders, which save a project, exactly what I showed you. So now I can just come here, go to tutorial, and I just double click on this to load it. So Vinayak, go ahead and load it.
Alright, I'm gonna have to refresh real quick.
No problem. Oh, and because you mentioned that, if you don't see a file and someone says they added a file, you just gotta have to click this refresh icon at the top, which will start.
Wait,
Things
did you
will
add to
stop
mine?
loading. No, I put it outside in just the tutorial where students' work is.
Okay, I've loaded it up.
All right, you got it loaded. All right, so I'm just gonna teach you how to move around the file, not worry about selecting things yet. So the way you zoom out is you move your mouse wheel backwards or forwards. It's inverted to what you normally would expect. Um, so you move it forwards to zoom out, and move it towards you to zoom in. Um, then if you're on trackpad, I'm sorry, you should definitely pick up a mouse because things can get a little annoying. Because I think you just have to zoom in using the touch commands, which cannot be the best, depending on the quality of your laptop. But if you're on a mouse, you can push down on your mouse wheel, your scroll wheel, and you can just move around the document as you please. So let's say I need to move this to the left because I have a second wheel I need to see here, or something like that. So now, I can move around, zoom in and out, but now you need to change the angle. Well, you can do that by dragging this at the top, by just left clicking on somewhere here at the top, and then you can just change your angle however you want it to get the perfect thing. Let's say I got the perfect angle, but I need to move it down or zoom in. I want to measure something like this. I can do that. I say I'm zoomed in, but I want to be facing like this way. I can do that too. And now you maybe see these little like blue things appear, and that is actually a really useful feature for someone on a trackpad because it helps you just adjust a lot quicker. So these will set your angle that you're looking at things exactly. So I can hit top when I have the blue square, and it'll put me directly on top. Then using these arrows, I can maneuver around the top and change my angle. So this would work if you have like an odd shape or something and you want to be facing at a different angle. You can click all of these and you'll get different angles as well. You only want to be like this though when you view these. The default view is normally you have top, front, and the right view. And this is a pretty good one because you get like an angle rather than just something flat. But these all have their purpose, especially when you want to view it as a drawing but not want to create a drawing, which I'll also get into in a bit more of an advanced course. But yeah, so this is pretty much how you maneuver around. You push the wheel away from you in order to zoom out, towards you to zoom in. You can just push down the wheel in general to drag across your screen. You can then use this by just holding left click, and you can move around the thing right there, and you'll see this little green thing. That's where it's pivoting from. It's picking that location as the center to pivot from. Or you can just use the clicking features here, and you can get different angles. And these arrows, by the way, exist for every single flat surface. What I mean by flat surface is like the back, the top, the left, the right, and the bottom. Alright, Vinayak, did you get all that?
Yeah, I did.
Alright, great. So now I'm going to show you how to measure something. Because at this point, if you just want to be able to view files and measure something, you would be almost done. So first off, I always just want to make sure my document settings, which will be on this browser. If you don't see this, you should see something like this right here. Just click on these arrows, and then you have either something like this or this, and then you have all these things that have different files and compartments and whatnot, which we'll get into definitely later. It's a little bit more complicated. But this under here, right here, is document settings. Just click on this. Then you'll see units IN for units inches, and then just put your mouse on here and then click, and you can change active units. So right here we have this little pop out that says change active units. You can set inch as default, so you can really set to whatever you need. You can set to feet, meters, millimeters, centimeters. So let's say I want this just to be in meters now. Actually, let's do millimeters. And I can set that as the default for when I make files. I then come to, there's a few things you can do. These definitely all get like a bit more advanced. I normally only use measure. But what I can do is, you can change the precision by basically just, this will show how many decimals, kind of like how a calculator will only go like so many decimals in. This lets you change that to going up to the 8th decimal place or showing all of them completely. Secondary units basically means it'll show it as secondary as well, so I'll set that to inches, and then I can choose points or lines. So the way Fusion works is there's faces, so it'll show me the area if I select the face, and then there's lines, and then there's points. Those are the three things you can select. So first I'm just going to restart selection by clicking this undo arrow. You can select bodies. These really, if you just want to measure how long something is, so I can select this, and I know that's the radius, that's the diameter, and you'll see because I had a secondary, because I chose the secondary unit as inches, these all appear in inches, and I can change this on the fly. So let's say I don't want to have to change my whole document setting to get an inch, or to get a measurement in inches, just change that really quickly. So we can just click on any part of it and get a measurement. And by clicking on two parts, it will get a measurement in between those and give us the how do I say this? It'll give me the measurement for both of them individually and their normal measurement if I was just measuring to and from them. So what I mean by that is we have this measurement here that shows me all the stuff we saw before by just selecting this. So we have the radius and diameter for selection 1, which is, you see that arrow 1 right here. Then here we have selection 2, we have the length, the radius, the diameter, and all that other stuff. And then we have a distance and the minimum distance. So the distance basically would be, as you can see, this is at an angle, maybe not the best choice. I'll just show you this piece right here and this piece right here. So now we have a distance and a minimum distance. So because it's flat, once again we have all these options, but because it's the minimum distance would basically be from obviously the shortest points they connect, and then the distance would basically be the normal distance, although I don't know why it says 0. I find that a bit odd. But Vinayak, did that all make sense?
Yeah, it did.
Alright, great. So then now, I showed you how to do lines. You can also do points. And points are useful like if you have like a cube or something similar. So, we could just look at this. We can select this point, and then we could maybe select this line if I clicked correctly. And then we have the closest point to this line. I could select here, here, or here and change it. And then I could also just select line and line or face and line, and it will normally just take the closest route it can. So it's basically depends on what you really want to do. This is useful for faces, it's pretty useful. Like, if you, I can actually load a file and I'm just going to cut that out. Alright, so faces are useful if you need to, like I said, if you need to measure two things where there's not necessarily a point somewhere along it, but there are faces because the point doesn't really the 2 points don't intersect. Lines are useful, especially for getting angles, because if the lines intersect, like these lines intersect, I could get these, and after some calculation, we should get something about, I guess we don't get it here, but, oh, these aren't intersecting, that's why. So if I zoom really close in, do you see these actually aren't intersecting? Let me try these two lines then. And I guess there's no distance between them, although there should be some angle of sorts. I'm going to turn up the precision really high. As you can see, it's very small. That's very small, so I'm going to try these two. So I really want to show you the angle, which is a pretty useful feature, because it can, obviously show you two angles, how they intersect, and all that other fun stuff. Yeah, I guess it's not wanting to work, but most of the time you can get angles. But so what you should do now is, if you didn't really understand that, is just take this file, which either if you're a student of ours and you're watching this, we can add you to this, and so you can actually see the file. Or if you're just a person in general, I'll have a Google Drive link in the description where you can download this file. But anyway, so that was measuring, and I'm going to show you how you actually upload the file, and while I'm over here I can also show you this. So it says it's in use and show you how many people are using it. So as you can see, Vinayak is, because he's following along, Vinayak is also currently using this file. But all you have to do is add a file, hit upload, drag or drop a file, change location. I can put it in students work, my folder, select. It also lets me create a new project if I go back, or a new folder in here. Then you can just select file or drag and drop. There's a list of supported files. It's pretty, useful. You can also see who's using it currently by looking at the top there. So that's pretty much it, just reviewing files. So if you just wanted to learn how to view files and move around, I guess you can really consider to stop watching right now. However, there's a lot of more useful things like creating shapes and whatnot. So now I'm gonna actually leave this, and there were changes made technically, but I'm not gonna care about those, so I can just hit X. And now I'm gonna go back to my folder. So, alright, Vinayak, so why don't you create a tutorial by how I showed you before, going into your folder and then just saving that untitled document as tutorial. And if you're wondering, let's say this actually is a file that has stuff in it, even though it's called tutorial 1. Let's say you want to save this folder or this file, or like you want to create a new file because this is saved. You could just click a plus here, but let's say you're done. You can actually just hit the X here, and what that does is it'll close it and then put up open a new untitled one. Alright, Vinayak, let me know when you finish creating the tutorial folder.
Yeah, it's done.
Alright, where is it? I don't see it.
I just put it in mine, right? Or was it just put in like student
I
work?
see it. I see it now. Yeah, I see it. Okay.
I put it in my folder.
So another thing you can note is when you haven't loaded something on this device or it's been updated, is it's going to be grayed out. Even though mine isn't grayed out, because you can tell like it's a little bit brighter. This is still grayed out even though there's nothing in it, not because I didn't create it, but once I open it, I can now see it. So I'm just going to have him follow along, and I'm going to show him basically how to do some basic shapes, and also show him basic editing as well. So tutorial 1, let me load this. So first, how you normally do things is you create a sketch. So once you create you just click this top thing on the left right here, and now you're gifted with these 3 panels where you can choose how you want to create your sketch and on what axis. And what I mean by that is, if you want to make it, designing it on the floor, if I go to the top view, you'll see it's only on the floor. If I go to the right view, as you'll see, it's only facing this way. And if I go to the front view, it's only facing this way. So that's how you do that. You can get you can of course make more, you can change them to be more complex if you have different things everywhere. However, this is how you design the base. So let's just create like a small smiley face. Yeah, let's make a small smiley face from the top view. So as you can see, these are just units of measurement. Exactly what, I do not know. Normally I take a line, I try to see. Okay, so these are in meters. So we must have like millimeters or something selected. And as you can see, because there's another line here, it'll show us that our degree compared to that line. And that little circle too, which is pretty useful. And how you stop creating a sketch is right clicking a few times. So we're going to start off by just, like I said, making a smiley face. So as you can see in the sketch tab, which we opened by hitting create a sketch, we have all these different things. These are normally just making these lines. These are all the math terms that you hated and you probably don't remember. I mean, you probably remember parallel, but you may not remember tangent, coincident, horizontal, vertical. These are just creating those. These are for more just like changing a sketch. Like these would be getting perfect math terms. These are making things smoother and stuff like that. And these are just creating the sketch in general. So as you can see, you can do circular patterns to maybe get like a wheel or certain things like that. Rectangular, same thing. It's rectangular. Projecting, this is a little bit more complicated. I can show that later. Mirror obviously mirrors it. Text, which is pretty useful because I can just type something instead of needing to import it or try to make it myself. Point, this just makes a point. So let's say if I knew exactly where, I could do this. Perfect. I'm just going to undo that point by hitting Control Z, or you can just undo that. And then spline, it's kind of like a free-forming line. A slot is pretty much, you can create like a slot. A lot of these, I really only think a lot of these you can learn on how they work on your own, especially. So I'm just going to show you how you use them in general. So we're going to start off by creating a circle. And there's a few different ones. You can choose 2 points, 3 points, tangent, tangent. Tangents are good for if you have to make a circle and a square. 3 point obviously is if you need to, if you're choosing basing it off 3 points. 2 points is off 2 points. The center diameter. So if you use a center point as a diameter, what this allows you to do is it'll tell you the distance. So currently it says 12 meters. So if I click that and hit finish sketch, and then I select this line like we showed you before, we know the diameter is 12 meters. So if I undo this and I come back, we now know that this would be the diameter is 18 meters. So if I want a radius of 10, I have to know I have to make this 20. So there, that's pretty self-explanatory. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a circle like so. Vinayak, you can make it any size you want. You don't have to like make it how I'm doing it. And then we already have a pre-built line here. Actually, I'm gonna show you this. So this line is pre-built. So we could put things and it snaps to it along it, which is pretty useful. You have the grid, but let's say you have something at an angle. Let's say like you have a line where you need to create stuff along it at an angle, this angle. So you gotta hit check to be done. So we finish this, and then what we can do is hit finish sketch, and then we can click on it, and then you can do a lot of things right here, but you can hit X, I believe, unless it doesn't want to work all of a sudden, and it wants to be really annoying for whatever reason. Alright. Shoot, it's being very annoying. There we go. Okay. So you have to, while you're still modifying the sketch, I can create this line, I can hit X on it while I have it selected, and as you can see, it's dashed now, and now it's a, what we call a construction line. And the reason this is useful is I'll show you in a second. So, nope. Alright, there we go. Let's grab a circle. Let's make it, I don't know, 14. Let's make this one maybe a bit bigger. And you could just type the number in too, because maybe it lies right here in between. So let's go for like 0.1689. There you go. So now we got like a bigger eye here. And if we make this line a non-construction line, the problem is, well, it's not necessarily a problem here, but so let's make a line right here. Is by making this line, it cuts it in half. And most of the time you think, okay, cutting it in half seems okay, but if you just want to like have the line so it can just be used as just like a point on like on the grid somewhere, like this, how we wanted this to be right here, that's what you do, is you just make it a construction line. So if you just need it for measurement or something, but you don't want to delete it, you can keep that, and it's pretty useful. So now we have these two, and I showed you how to use that. Let's use the rectangle. Once again, you have like your saved ones here. You can change these. You have your line tool I just showed you. Here, if let's say you want to create a rectangle, you can base it off any of these, 3-point, 2-point, circle. You have all the arcs, polygons, ellipses, yeah. So like if there's an arrow, meaning that means you can do a lot more with it. You can change how you make it. I normally go for the 2-point rectangle, so I'm going to rotate my view slightly. So I want to make him have, a smiley face. Oop, cancel. So this is at a bit of an angle, so it's a little weird. But so I want to basically make this guy have like a smiley face using the rectangle tool. So we're going to go like this. Then we're going to go like this. Because it's a 2-point rectangle, what that means is basically you're clicking one point and you're clicking the next point where you want to start. And you can change these measurements like I said. So I can hit tab and go in between them, 0.11. And what the default, did not mean to do that. And what the default for this normally is it takes up the default for whatever you're currently working on. So obviously it's set to meters right now, so it's going to stay in meters. However, if I go to like 11, I type a space, I can type inches, it's now 11 inches. So that lets me modify in some pretty cool ways. I can type feet, I can type yard. You know, it just allows me to edit it. So let me type this, let me just keep it like 1105. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna go back. So most of the time, let's say 0.1105. Now it's locked, and now we can change this access because sometimes I have it so where I know one measurement, but I don't know the next measurement. So 11. So with just moving my mouse left to right, you can move it slightly down, but if you move it too far down, it'll just start breaking like that if you get too close. Vinayak, are you getting all this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure that you understand it. So now I can choose the measurement like this. I can say, okay, it's 1.145 meters to there. Or I can just hit tab again and then type 0.6. It's way too big, 0.06. There we go. So as you can see, now we have this. The only problem is we have all these. And this is just where it gets a little bit annoying. Normally what I would have done for this is I would have just taken the line tool, which I can just basically come like this, create a smiley face like this. You know, I can even make it go at angles, and then angles relative to this, I can change that because 40 degrees, 70 degrees, you know, let's do this, and I can do that, and now we have that smiley face. And now this is just one solid shape, which makes it just a little bit easier in the end. However, I'm just going to delete that for now. So now we have our shapes, and I'm going to show you how you actually make bodies with them, because you can't really do much with shapes if there's no body. But so yeah, let's just make bodies first, and then I'll show you some other stuff. So if I want to make them all the same height, this is easy. All I have to do is select them by using my left click. Oh, Fusion's acting up. Give it a second. So Vinayak, what'd you eat for lunch?
I had some like Indian food type thing, you know.
Alright.
It was like fried rice and like some other thing. Anyways, yeah.
Alright. So there we go. It's not breaking anymore. So I selected this. I can just go hold shift. And then I can, while holding shift, I can unselect things. And I just need to select all the things I want to extrude. And when I say extrude, I basically mean pull. And it's not pulling from something else. It's basically creating something. If you've ever seen like a 3D printer work, it's kind of like that. It just creates something just without the filament. But basically, I create a shape by hitting E for extrude, and then I can pull this up however tall I need it to go. So 0.15 meters, 0.2, and it's pretty simple. And then you have all these operations here. New body basically means it creates a whole new body for every one. Join means it'll join a body. That can basically make things look a bit more smoother. Cut will remove it. Intersect will just basically have the body be its own, but have it intersect as well into another thing. We already got new body and new component, because bodies and components are different. They're a little hard to explain. But yeah, so new body here. And let's say, you could just select them individually now and say, I want to make this one a bit taller. I can select this face because I can just select this face now. We don't need to sketch it anymore because we have it. So by left clicking and then hitting E to extrude, we have this arrow. We could pull it up, or we could pull it down. And now up, when we just pull it up, it just looks like a normal shape. Pulling it down makes it kind of red and invisible and gives us this little shadow, like so. And then we have this, and then with this, what we can do is we can lower it down by how much we need. If I hit new body here, basically this just be intersecting. If I hit join, as you can see, it would join it. So there'd be no intersecting marks like the line. Cut, I showed you, and intersect is basically, well, intersecting in this case, because we're using the same body, would make a whole new body, but yeah. So that now you know how to make things bigger, make things smaller. And now I'm gonna, yeah, let's finish showing off sketches. So I can come here, click on this face to create a sketch here, and you may say, well, why don't I just extrude it? But let's say you need to make some modifications. Let's say this person has like an iris because they're human. Well, first off, we need to find the center of the circle, and that can always be a bit difficult. You can normally do it by going to just moving around the circle, and as you can see, it actually stays kind of on the arc. And at a certain point, normally at one of the 90-degree locations across all these lines, you'll see that little this construction line that the fusion automatically generates, and then you'll see a circle when you find the center of the object. So now I can create another circle here, and then let's say their like eye is a little weird, so it's offset. And I've created an intersecting one because now what I can do is I can just select this, then I can just extrude this down, cut it, and this stays where it is, but now we have this little eye in there too. Then that's pretty much all the things, you know. You can kind of select these. It's a little weird making them on like a cylinder, but that's pretty much how you create those, all the stuff like that. The only thing when you're creating, I'll show you these later. These are all the other features you can use, which get a lot cooler and very useful. Like for making wires, pipes, and coils are really fun. Threading is for specific nuts if you need to make whatever reason, especially for 3D printing. I'll show you these really quickly. So box basically is making a box really quickly, like I just showed. I need to finish the sketch really quick, alright? Because I just want to automatically be in this tab. Box will just like kind of do that automatically. I still like to make sketches for that. Cylinder is the same thing. Sphere is a little different. So you select where you want the sphere to be based, and then you create a sphere anywhere, and then you can pull it out, and it creates a perfect sphere. And you know, you can change what it does. And then what else is there? Torus basically creates like a donut. Coil, as you see, makes a coil, and a pipe makes a pipe. Patterns get interesting. Mirror, you know, I sure you talked about mirror. But basically, a lot of these you can kind of figure out on your own. You know, whole. These are revolve basically. I'll showcase that in this tutorial. This will be a really long tutorial, but I'll showcase this a bit later. So now I'm going to show you how to move bodies. So what you can do is come to this bodies folder. Also, if you don't like these little weird tints, or if you're hiding the bodies and you have this, you don't want to see it, just these folders basically show where everything is. So these sketches, you know, I have all the different sketches I made. This was a sketch, you know, this was a sketch, and then this was also a sketch, because that's what we did some stuff with that. So this is, I can just show them or hide them. At the end, you want to hide the sketches because they look a little bit unprofessional when you're showcasing them. Just see like these lines, especially if you change them in any way. Let's say like you have a line going through the middle. Like let's say you have like a square like this and a line goes through the middle, and you don't see anything like on the right side of the line, but on the left you still see the sketch. That may sound a bit weird if you don't understand it. Just remember to hide your sketches. So now we have all these different bodies we made. You know, we have every single one. This selecting them like that kind of weirds them out because they were all made from the same sketch. But I can just select them individually here. So let's say I didn't like where this iris was. I can hit M to move. Let me just click here, get a nice top view. I can move this down to the left using the free move, which basically means I can change how it is, where it is. So I have all these accesses. This axis, this axis, this axis, and then all their angles as well. So that's it pretty much is every single axis. You can rotate it, and since we're rotating around a center point, it's different. If you were just rotating around the center of itself, it'd be different. So, and we can actually change that by changing the pivot point. So if I hit here and I hit set pivot, it will just let me pick the middle of this. What I can do is I hit done to confirm it, and then I can choose this one, and as you can see, it's rotating, or it's rotating around the center of itself. It's pretty useful. Translate is the same thing as free move, just no angles. Rotate is the same thing, I believe. Oh, well, rotate only lets you choose one axis at a time, which can get a little bit annoying, but it's workable. And then point to point basically means I pick a point, I choose another point, and then it just automatically moves. And what I mean by that, I select this point, it's the center here. I select this point, it's the center here. And what I normally do is I do a bit of work on it first. So I come here to this iris, I hit move, I angle it down to 90 degrees, I hit OK, I hit move again, I go point to point, select this point, come up, then I select this point, and it gets moved there. I don't know why it moved there, but I hope you're getting the idea. You can use that to basically attach pieces without attaching them, which makes no sense right now, but it'll make sense in a minute when I show you joints. So then I can come here. It can get a bit wonky, especially working with these. So let's just select this and then move it here. Yeah, it's getting a bit off. But I hope you get the idea. Normally when you're working with components themselves, like you're working with, in my cases, if I need to center something or things like that, or make minor adjustments, or when I'm especially creating constructions, like, let me try and find it really quickly. If I go to my BAMF, I think. Oh wait, that would be in here. If I go to, hopefully this one, BAMF. So none of these have the wheels. Okay, this is the wheel on the axle. So this would be the wheel attached to the gearbox with the chain things on it and everything. So once it loads, I guess, does this one have the chains? I think we decided to not end up showing whatever. So like I said, what we use this in this situation is this is version 4. You can basically come here and you can load older saves. They have the thumbnail still. Let's say like we realize version 4 has a mistake. We need to go to version 3 or whatever. That's what it's useful for. I can get that into that another time. Anyway, so this was a pre-made part. And this wheel was was until I don't know. We have the two parts that would come separately, the wheel and this, and then an axle. Well, the axle's on it anyway. So what we did was we chose to basically, well, these are joints, which I'll show you in a second. Basically what we did was we did move, we picked this, and then we selected here, and it moved it to the, it took this center and put it here. So now it's on the center exactly, which is what we want. And then we were like, okay, we need to move it 2 inches in. We can then move it 2 inches in, which is really perfect because it's still center, just 2 further inches in, or however far. And I'm actually just gonna delete this joint. So now, okay, it's still a rigid group. Delete. So now what I can do is showcase how to move things using this. Trying to link this file just be a little bit more complicated because I have to find this. If you don't see this normally, you don't really need to worry about it. Just remember how this works. So I can just select this, which is the same as a body. When you import a file, it'll have the name of the file. It'll just not be a body. And what I mean by that is basically in here, it has the same thing. It's basically as if you took this entire menu here, like all the things except for document settings, and it copies them and puts them there. So then I can just, you have these joints, all these parts, all that. What I can do is I can just click on this. It's like selecting a body. Hit M to move it. That's not M. Hit point to point. See it's already facing 90 degrees up, so that's fine. Select this ring, which will automatically go off the center. Then select this, and there you go, it moved in. And now I know from here we need to move this in a bit more. You'd want point to position. And the point to position basically, if I undo what I just did. So point to position just makes your life a little bit easier, and it moves basically, and it puts it automatically in a position. The only problem is sometimes it doesn't let you pick this, like the center, so I don't necessarily do it every single time. It has its uses, but it just doesn't let me do it when I want to. But so I normally just point to point, then transform. Oh, I did not do point to point. So point to point. Why is it not moving? That is really weird. Oh, I know why. It's a join. That's why. Okay. So delete that. Come here. This can get moved. Hitting M. Point to point. And something useful is you can come here, and this eye lets you toggle the visibility. So I picked it. I can make it invisible, so I can now see this better. Put it on, make it visible again. I'm like, yep, that looks right. Hit OK. Then move it, and then free move, and now you can move this back, I don't know, 1.3 inches. I'm not going to save this because I don't want to, because it's not good. But yeah, so I'll show you joints now. So joints was basically what we had before. Wait, first off, Vinayak, did you understand all that about moving and everything?
Yeah, I did.
Alright, good. So joints basically now let you create, what a joint is it's an assembly. So they just let you connect things to other things, and that may sound weird, but I'll show you in a second. If I delete this rigid group, which is a joint, it's a type of joint. There are many types of joints, and then delete this joint as well. So what I can do is I can create, first off, I'm going to move this off and move it over here. So what I do is I click on this, and then you can hit rigid group, which basically makes it so the entire thing won't move. It'll be firm. So what joints do is it basically is a connecting point. So two pieces get held together. So this would be in the case if, the wheel's on the axle, but, in the model, the screws don't really mean anything. So this is how you'd make them do things. Or if you have a ball and a socket, something similar. So if I come here, I can hit joint. This is basically meaning some components have been moved. Hit capture position, and I'll just take the new components. So you can select the joint. So it's select here. Then I can select here. And what that does is it moves it, and it shows the rigidity. So it got moved, and then it, if I undo this and I put it right back here, it shakes like that to let you know the whole thing is stable. And the whole component got moved because, yeah, so that basically what creating a joint does is a joint basically moves it. But now if I moved it before, what would happen is if I just move this part, it would, like, this wheel would not move with it. Now I move it like this, and it moves with it. And people say, oh, well, the joints don't make sense, it takes a bit too much time. How often am I going to move parts? And you could just select the parts together. However, when creating stress testing models and everything like that, we don't necessarily do stress testing. Not yet, at least. I need to start figuring out how that works, because that would be really fun to say we use. But these are also good for creating animations and things like that, because now this is going to permanently stay here. The only problem is this can't rotate because it's a wheel. Well, if I move this back, I can hit joint, capture position, click here, and then here, and then go to motion. This changed a little bit, but I got it now. So these have all the things. So rigid basically means it's like glued in right there. It can't move. And it shakes, just so you know how it works. So cylindrical, these kind of all like a little different. Planar basically means it can move on that plane, kind of like a hockey puck. Ball, it's a ball and a socket. And it shows this animation, which I think is really nice because you get an idea. Revolve is a wheel, like I just showed you. It'll let this thing rotate around this axis. Slider lets it slide back and forth. Cylindrical, kind of like a cylinder. I'm not really sure about that. Pin and slot, not the most familiar with that either. But let's go to slider. So as you can see, if we go to slider, that may be nice, but that's not the position I want it in. So now, because we selected slider, we can actually see that arrow. I can rotate this down. Then if I go to slider, again, ooh, that's not what I want. Motion. Custom, here we go. So, oh, don't know what it did. Custom, select it. It basically allows you to edit it. So let's say you rotate it this way. You could rotate it this way for whatever reason. It's not necessarily a wheel then. But these just allow you to make it however you need it to. However, in our case, we just want it like this. To rotate around this. You can animate it. It shows the animation for it. Keep it on. But it's basically, these allow you to, rather than just moving components, it allows you to create rigid groups. Now, let's say you just have a part like this, because you're not going to animate, let's say your company, you're not going to animate every single individual gear of this moving. I don't know if you saw like the gears when I was doing this, but you're not going to make every single gear in this box move. What you could do instead is basically make it kind of, how do I say this, a rigid group. You know, everything here is a rigid group. And what you do by that is, let's say this wasn't a wheel and a thing. Let's say these were going to move. These weren't going to move. Like, let's say like this was, we're just making the gearbox. This is a part of it. What you do is you load all the files in the file. Normally, in this case, you just have bodies. You'd select them, and then you can just hit rigid group right here and hit capture position and hit yes. Including child components basically means all the components. So like the wheel outside's a component. This could be inside as a component. The axle's a component. However many components there are ends up being how many like the company or however many you make or the company made. We're just going to hit OK, and now there's a rigid group, so if we move this, they're the same. And it was the same thing with the wheel. You know, if we move them, it's the same. The wheel just allows movement, so when you're, because Fusion, you know, once again, it's a very professional program. If you want to show animations and stuff like that, that's how you do it. Where was I? So, you can do the same thing in Joint by selecting two things, and then just clicking rigid. However, rigid groups allow you to select like up to anything you really want. You can create a bunch of stuff. And by the way, so if I don't happen to have a file, but basically I can select things by left clicking and then holding shift, and shift will basically will let me select as many as I want. Shift will basically, if I select this one and there was like 5 more down and I select the third one, or if I select this and I select like the fourth one, 1 to 4 will all be selected, or if I select the second and the fifth, 2 to 5 will all be selected. But joints are basically movements, moving things, but they stay put, but they can also move if you want them to. Does that make sense, Vinayak?
Yeah.
Alright, are you sure? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, I'm getting it.
Alright, great. So, well, most of the time, why bodies are important is because, let's say, like, you need to cut something off for whatever reason. So, I'd come here, let's say, for whatever reason, ours is different, move this back. Hit OK. And it's cut. Now, because these are cloned, these, I guess, the way the company made these were cloned. They took the same part together. But that's basically, let's say this is too tall, extrude down, cut. And then there's little nuances, so you can get it so you only cut that. You look at the gearbox. But basically, you could use it to shorten things, adjust things. Let's say, especially when you're working with, like, not with, in FRC, we use steel. In FTC, we use, Go Builda, I believe. Yeah, Go Builda rails and things like that. What we do with those is, you know, we cut them sometimes if they're too big. So it'd be useful in those situations. You can just cut it, however big they made it. So I think we've gone over a lot of basics so far. We done joints, how to move things, how to create things. But most of the time we're not creating stuff. I will show you we do create things now and again, post CDR pneumatics. we have very few pneumatic things. And like tanks, we didn't have the company. We couldn't, there's no. They didn't really make a pneumatic tank, but how do I say this? So the company didn't necessarily make a tank because it's a tank. So all I did was, I had just looked at it, measured it, how far I needed to, got the diameter using calipers, and then basic skills, Fusion 360. All I need to do is create a circle sketch, extrude that, come here, create a circle sketch on the circle sketch that's smaller because it was smaller here, and then here. And these all have rigid joints because they don't move. But let me show you. So like I just showed you, shifting will select all of them between two. Alt will select as many as I want. You could shift. Let me say I want 1 to 3, or 1 to 5, and I want 2. There you go. But then this is also a pretty good demonstration. So this is close enough to the realistic point for the CAD model. Because we just need to make sure everything would fit on the board, because the board was already pre-made. But we still wanted to make sure everything would fit on the board totally, and it's nice to have the model in case for whatever reason, because let's say there's, I don't know, a giant plate right here, we got to make sure it can fit. So this came from some company, and this came from a company by figuring out exactly which model it was and comparing it. And you can see the detail companies take. You don't have to worry about making all these things detailed with color. Color is cool and everything, but for the base model, just creating, I just added black because the tanks were black. I just made the steel frame gray because it's steel, or I hate the steel. This is just gray with these just being black, so, But, using basic shapes, I created, let me see. So here, I created a face. Using on this axis, I created a face. I used a sketch using the line tool exactly how I needed it to, based off the measurements. Copied and pasted it, because you can copy stuff with block. So, copy, paste. Because I'm in like another file in the file, it's a little hard. Actually, did it let me do this? I don't know. Anyway, but copy and pasting these just allows you to do it. And then using basic tools and movements and shapes, I was able to create all the things. So we had like a valve here, and we didn't attach any of the wires because this was made very quickly just to get the board down, and we never really went back and updated it. But we still got the idea of how everything was gonna look and feel, and this is pretty nice. At least it was pretty nice rather than just having a compressor and this. Compare. You know what I mean, Vinayak? Like it was nice having to see things. Even if they were just blocks, it was nice being able to see them where they were, rather than just having this compressor and this on the board.
Yeah.
So that is, like actual uses where you'd use it. But most of the time, we're not going to be doing that, or if you are, it's going to be pretty basic. Let me just wait a year and a half while this loads. That's the field. I'm not going to load that. That will crash my computer. Let me go to final. This was kind of like started but never really finished because it had some issues. But once this loads, I'm gonna like just show you how things are useful, because most of the time what CAD is it's we do create our own things, but a lot of it, especially unless you're that company, is you just manufacture things. You may be the one creating these models, which they get very nuanced and specific, but they're so detailed and you take the time. But because we're a team, we just take the models that the companies provide for free on their websites, before or when we purchase them. Once this loads, and we just combine them together, or we create basic things. Like once this loads, this little bar here doesn't really tell you anything. So here we go. I was making an animation with this, so this will explain why it has kind of like this view. Actually, I'll show you this really quickly. So these are all the different 6 tabs. Drawing basically means you're making blueprints. When we sent our thing off to be welded, we had it drawn. I made a drawing for it, so they knew how to do it. Manufacture basically means CNC machining, 3D printing, because that's a new feature. Simulation means stress testing, and also you can do generative design, I believe, there as well. Animation, you create animations of it. Just mainly what I do, I could blow it up, and what I mean by that is every single part on this gets moved up, out, and like expanded. However, normally I just use this. Let me use this. I just use this and I create camera movements. I kind of messed that up, but you get the idea. Rendering, this will take a second to load, is it just makes it look nicer to begin with. Because first off, you have the orthogonal view, because it's better to design it like that. It makes it a lot more easier to understand. This has shadows, you know, the colors are a bit nicer in my opinion. You can change your settings here about how things look. Normally you wanted to turn joints off because they come ugly. I just normally turn all work features off as for here. And then I normally do perspective because orthogonal is cool. You know, you have this. It's nice to be able to know those are all the same. But perspective, you get that nice little bit detail. You get like all these shapes and movement. This looks really nice. So for renders, what you do is basically you come here, you hit in canvas render. I don't know why that piece is just floating out there. And basically you'll now render the image. This is probably a bad idea to start. It'll start off as pixels. Whenever you move your camera, it'll change it. But now it'll just render the image with all the colors. So this will show you how many iterations you do. So excellent means it's pretty good. Final, just like a lot, I think 200. And infinite means you could just go away somewhere. You don't want it to stop. You know, let's say like I'm gonna be gone. Let's say you know this render will take about 10 minutes. Let's say you're gonna be gone for 15. You're like, why not just get the extra quality? If I move around, you'll see, you know, it's gonna be very distorted. If I stop the render, you know, if I move around, it's all fine, and it just looks nicer in my opinion in general. But yeah, so here I believe you can also add color to things. But yeah, so as you can see, this was created. I don't know about these, and I don't know about this axle and wheel, but I'm pretty sure this was created by us. This. Don't think these plates were, or maybe they were. I don't believe so though. But a lot of it in the end is you take the base things. You know, I made a simple square for this boundary. I also made a simple frame. I also did end up making this part, and then these chain attack. We didn't end up. The chain would have just been no reason to, because the detail for that would take way too much time. But I did end up actually modeling these wheels, which look okay, because they only actually had the CAD model for the 4-inch wheels rather than the 6-inch wheels as well. So I made custom wheels. You know, this was made by me. These were, I don't think this was, because it's an axle and the washer, but I made this like a little bracket. So it can take a bit of time, but this looks okay. I made it somewhat quickly. But then also over here, you know, it's basically just attaching components to a basic frame. You know, I don't know if I don't think we modeled these directly. We may have. I know this is probably modeled by us, and this too. But like the gearbox right here, attaching that to basics here. You know, basic here, attaching things basically. I hope that makes sense. It's basically a lot of what CAD ends up being at a certain point is attaching things, maybe modifying them a bit, and then adding stuff. A better look at this is normally actually at FTC, because it's much more smaller and condensed. So I'm just gonna go to my personal projects. So it's acting a bit weird right now because it's basically unloading a lot of the things. If that makes sense. Like because I have like a lot of files open right now, which is not the best thing. You can have them open, but because I was going from my team account, which my team account, you know, like the team lets you have stuff open, then going to my personal just lets me do things maybe I don't want to share with everyone. The team just makes you more organized. If I go to Skystone, I go to here, or I go to Skystone, the Preocious Robot, New Testament, because we made a first thing, and then my mentor, or my mentor, he was a student, but he taught me. Our CAD captain at the time, Derek, told me, no, you should do it like this, and showed me how he did it, and I followed suit. So once this loads, here we go. While it waits, Vinayak, you understood all that, right? About why it's important and everything?
Yeah, I did.
Right, great. And since Vinayak does electronics and Patrick does, Patrick can obviously teach him. But also electronics box, we never really. I haven't seen it where we modeled every single part of the electronics box CAD. I think it'd be pretty useful for him to map it out and make sure everything can fit where it goes, and also let them plan stuff out. So here we can actually. I'll explain more about adding color, probably not this tutorial, but basically, this was a pre-made part that was just custom fitted. So pre-made part, we cut it slightly here, I believe, or I don't know if we did. We took this part though. This was cut, I know, because you could tell these are just cut. So we cut it to where it needed to be, and then attached it using these pieces in the model. This is where chain was. We just didn't have chain. Did not mean to do that. Oh shoot. Okay, it's gonna try to do something weird. Hold up. I dragged the third assembly of this in, so it's an older model. I'm just gonna cancel. Because you can add stuff to the file. You can import things to your files, but I should probably explain this now. So you can import stuff to your files by clicking on it, right? By going to your file, by navigating to the folder. I'll just explain once this is done. Oh, sweet. Vinayak, I could really go for some challah bread from the bread store, like Great Harvest. Their challah bread is fire.
Dude, all their bread is fire. My favorite one's like, I forget even the name because it's been a long time since I've had it, but like, I know there's like apples and like,
Apple
what's
scrapple.
yeah, apple scrapple. That is
That's the one,
bomb.
bro. Because it's like sweet, but it's bread, but it has the crust
Exactly
too. I'm gonna keep this
that.
in, by the way.
I don't care.
Yeah. So
The whole world can know it's a bomb bread.
so you can move stuff in by just clicking left click on the file, then hitting insert in the current design. New drawing from design. I don't really use that. It basically goes to the drawing tab instantly, as far as I know. But you could just come in here, hit insert in the current design, or you could just drag and drop it like I accidentally did in. But it's much better to hit insert. So here, as you can see, I didn't make these. These were parts that were made, and it's just about it's about putting it together. So FTC can be a little less, I can handle things a bit better there, but it's also better to, have the people design it as they want it, so they don't have to ask me and guide me in how they want to do it, but still they don't understand it. So let's see. This, I don't actually know what this was for. I think this was for something, it just got misoriented now. But, this piece was cut and slightly modified, put it there. This piece is just a normal, however long it is piece. So what we normally end up doing is we just have a gigantic library of pieces that we take from. Like if I come here, these are just parts, I guess. Let's go to Skystone. You can use like that to navigate, by the way. If I come to parts, catalog, mostly Patrick, he did a lot of this work, but also a little bit of me. Basically went in and organized it all, renamed everything. Well, I mean, when I added stuff at a certain point, I didn't rename them because there's no point. But Patrick was the bomb. He went in, opened every file, measured how long it was, and then added it. Because what they do is they allow you to import these giant amounts of parts at a time. So what we did normally is we went to the Go Builder, and they normally often actually, if I can open Google Chrome, I open a tab or a new window. So here we go. If I go to Go Builder, I don't know. So it's always a pain to get there. Amazing place, but just a pain to get there. Although a little pricey. So what we normally end up doing is, if I just type FTC. You know, they sell this master kit for each season with newer parts. So it's very expensive. We normally don't buy the master kit because, you know, we may have extras. It may be at a better deal, whatever. What we normally end up doing, though, is there's normally this is what everything it includes. Downloads. You can download the step files, which is basically the step is basically the standard that they use for creating their files. And Fusion I know will accept I know those will accept the files. Fusion will accept all these different types of files. So the Fusion file itself, the inventor files, DWG, DXF, FBX. FBX is actually pretty cool. OBJ, you know, so you get 3D printing, STL, and STEP. So these should work. They may accept more files because they just not may be able to export them. I don't know, but these, you know, definitely will all work. STEP, STL, OBJ, obviously Fusion 360 files, probably the proprietary Maya thing. So if I open this, it has a weird name, but in here is every single file with their code. That's the only thing I don't like. So what we end up doing is we taking like one whole day is we just, well, they're still trying to figure out how they want to do things in the first place once we're not needed. Is basically it's all right, these are this long pieces, you know, that's basically what we do, and it works pretty well, you know. Marking them all off, even if we don't, you know, we didn't even use some of these, but, you know, just having them there and knowing, because we can recycle most of these unless we switch things completely. It's just really useful because, you know, once you build up a catalog, you can just say, copy this over, and then just say, oh, new wheel, copy this. And I'll show you this really quickly too, because normally the Go Builder wheels are black and yellow. We dyed ours red, or Brady's dyed his red. So you have these things right here that are part of the wheel, obviously. So this is the left wheel. And what I can do is I can select them. Really? Okay, so I gotta find them. There are a lot of, this is very detailed. So these should all just be the roller block nuts. Actually, I just want these, right? Yeah, I just want these. So what I can do then, in this one, so what I can do is I can just come here, and this may seem a bit weird why I'm showing you this, but I can hit appearance, or I think it's Control A or something, and we ended up making ours red, and Derek made his red in the end. I'm just gonna make these yellow because that's the default color. So appearance lets you add things. So we have a whole list, and you can also download ones as well. So I believe they're like a plastic, you know. I don't know exactly what type. I normally just choose whatever looks the nicest for the thing. So let's go to metal, aluminum. I guess they don't have a yellow aluminum, which is slightly annoying. Brass could work. Let's just go matte brass. Probably not, or like, let's go polish. That'll look nice. You know, it looks a bit funky. Yeah. Paint, metallic yellow. There we go. That looks okay, I think. So I close it. I can save this file. So now this has yellow. It's only the left ones, but still. So now what happens is in this assembly is basically, if I go back to the parts, Priosh's robot, New Testament. So assembly wherever, I think 2 is where we added the wheels in. Realized, hey, there was an update on the wheels, or part was updated. So part 3 was updated. So part 4 was updated. So part 5, because each part takes from the last part. So they realized it's a chain of events. Oh, this is updated. We gotta fix it. So you just come here to the top, click on it, and then it will load in everything. And once it does, because basically it inserted that file into this file, but because you changed the source file, it changed it. Does this make sense, Vinayak?
Yeah.
Alright. I know that this part this seems kind of weird, but if you know, it gives you like a little bit of practice using it, and it also makes it not gray. Even if you just make it look aluminium or anything, just metal, just besides this gray, because
Did you really just say aluminium?
did you not just say aluminium?
To, this is not Europe. It's aluminum.
Okay, anyway, so as you can see, it just updated. So now this is yellow, more authentic. I don't know why they didn't make it yellow, but there you go. You know, these, you know, they have their little ports that are white, and then like the little dots that are different colors, I think, somewhere on that. But ooh, but yeah, you get the point. Oh, there's yellow. But anyway, you get the point that this is basically used for updating stuff, which is pretty useful in my opinion, because you know, we want um, let's say we want a cool design. What we could do is I accidentally did something. I don't know what I did. But what you could do in the end is basically say, okay, I want this to look like this. I'm not explaining it well. So you could basically color code it. So you can basically automatically say all the 128 millimeter parts and all the 40 millimeter parts. This is red. This is green. You know, it also just looks nicer in my opinion. So and I think it's really shows, and you can really say, hey, we took the time to basically make it not just gray. We made it, you know, metal, aluminum, Vinayak, or any other thing that we took. And this even, because it has 3D printing now, it actually has, well, it's had the 3D printing types, but it should start adding their like the 3D printing feeling as well. So if I know like this part's gonna be 3D printed with PETG or PLA or ABS, they have all those things as well, and you can download stuff off the internet to get installed as well. So it just becomes just it just makes it look a lot. It's just a lot more useful now, honestly. So this is basically what the end goal is. Is you're basically gonna just take practice putting parts together. FRC is a little different, you know, because a lot more things are custom, but you still have the main parts that we buy. You know, we're not making a gearbox; we're still getting attaching it. So this has been just the tutorial. Um, uh, Vinayak, do you have like any questions or anything? Basically,
Not too many. Most of the information is pretty straightforward.
I'll just go over these quickly. So yeah, because I said I was gonna go over these. Revolve basically means you pick a center point. This will basically revolve. You take a sketch and it will revolve around that center point. So as you can see here, it's pretty straightforward as they show it. You know, that's the center point. That's a sketch, and it'll create a body around that. Sweep basically means you just put it on like a path. So that's another way you can make cables. Pretty useful. Loft makes you basically go from one shape to another or make it smaller. Ribbing, uh, what is ribbing? Uses an open sketch creator. I didn't feature. I actually never really used ribbing personally. I think what it means is it just lets you use something like this, which you know basically you have this something this thick here, and then it's that thin piece. You make another thing go on top of that automatically. Web, kind of basically what, as far as I can tell, kind of makes infill. Holing just makes a hole. Threading just threads it. Box, torus, all this other stuff. Patterns, you know, it's pretty straightforward most of the time. Um, so most people are gonna stay on design. Drawing is only really when you need to send it off to someone who can't have access directly to the file. Manufacturers, if you're CNCing, which we still have to get ours working, but 3D printing works. We may use Fusion through 3D printing, because then I think it'd be pretty cool if we can figure out, if I'm pretty sure Mr. Anderson can help us figure out a way to set it up automatically or connect it to Fusion a lot quicker. Simulation, like I said, simulation and generative design, because someone made a really good tutorial showing basically they made like a bracket, like a triangle bracket, like a 40, it was 45, 45, 90-degree triangle, and they basically had the generative design pick out the best parts of where it needs support to hold up this much weight. So he saved a lot of, you know, money on filament. You know, filaments you can get pretty cheap, but you know, you save money here and there. And you can also, the idea of just saying, hey, this was created with generative design using AR, or not AR, AI, or whatever it's called. There's 1,000 different technologies. But that's pretty much it. So if you really want to get practice, you just got to practice moving pieces around, connecting them. What I'll most likely end up doing is if I give another workshop like this, which I hope to, or if not, I hope to at least do an off season. If not, I'll give another message during. I'll probably do a workshop live, and I'll probably make a simple, maybe not something as complicated as this, or if it is, the parts will be pre-made. But I'll probably do something along the lines of this, which is random. No, Priosh's robot, New Testament. Let's go to like assembly 3. So yeah, there we go. So I may do something, maybe not the gears, but maybe the motors. You know, just taking the time showing people, you know, okay, so add wheels here, add how you add axes, how you just attach the base bodies. We don't include screws because we don't really run simulations that intensely, and putting every single screw in would take so much time, there would be no point unless it's a major screw. But we do add bearings in because bearings are important. Because, you know, we may buy a D rod and it's actually a circle bearing or something. You know, this is a D bearing. But yeah. So I may just do something similar where I just make the base, or I just make the wheels and I put in a motor or two. Because this just making something like this, being able to create simple things. If this took me like, I don't know, 5 minutes probably, and it takes someone else 10 or 15, but they did it on themselves, you know, getting them along that path and making just smaller parts, because just getting the parts into position and knowing exactly what you need. So some other fun things, you can really just stop watching if you're done with the tutorial now, but some other fun things is the stud, which we call it because it was a Lego stud. Went through many iterations of 3D printing and whatnot. This was fun. So I used an online thing for STL, image to STL converter. An STL is basically a type of file, and what Fusion lets you do with STLs is it lets you basically cut them and make impressions. So this was done with an STL right here. This was done with an STL. This was done, and then Preyosh's face was done with an STL with 520. This is definitely
Excellent.
This is definitely really kind of fun to do. You know,
Aiden,
yeah.
I spent 5 minutes working on a smiley face. You can go and check it out now.
Oh
It looks
yeah.
pretty tough.
Let's actually see how it turned out. We'll make sure it all turned good.
It looks amazing.
So actually, if you're part of the Fusion team, or like our Herndon Robotics Fusion team, well, I gotta
Ooh,
close.
actually, I'm gonna add that real quick.
I'm closing
Hold
all
up.
this up.
Give me a second.
Oh no, it's fine. I just gotta close all these files. I'll probably give Vinayak a I'll probably give Vinayak a task to do. Vinayak, are you still free?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I'll give, because I just have to find it. I'll stop recording. I'll give Vinayak a thing, and then he'll tell me when he's done, and then I'll show you it. Because this is what Derek had us do. Is he basically said, all right, make a toy robot, make something, you know, like that looks kind of cool. So let me find it actually. Tutorial. No, actually, maybe one of these tutorials. Oh, yeah, I made this. See, this is something you can make. This is my profile picture, and it got me a lot of upvotes on Reddit once I rendered it. It's basically the first logo, but with Fusion.
Oh, damn, you made that?
Yeah, basic
That's pretty
shape.
cool, dude.
I was like, okay, this looks about this thick. You know, made a shape, made a second shape, extrude it, color it. It's simple. You know, just making stuff like this. This is for a friend who got some subscribers. That never got sent because my printer's broken, but whatever. Nothing in here. Yeah, I was planning to do a tutorial, and every time I did it, I would make a tutorial. Yeah, that was fun. English. Tutorial by Derek. Here we go. So what you'd have us do is basically, you had us mess around. So for you guys watching at home, what you should do is basically mess around, make some funny shapes, you know, what I made. Don't know why this is here. There we go. This is my I made. I'm gonna expose Patrick. This is what Patrick made. Ooh, look, this is like invisible. Just look at the stuff, just mess around, make some weird shape. I was like, oh, cool, like a skyscraper type thing, or I don't even know, maybe a key or a taser. And then if I come out of this, so Robot 2, the idea was you follow along this tutorial. And the way it works is basically you create every separate component. So even if it's something as simple as the arm, just a square, separate component, you save it, name it arm. Then I create a second iteration for arm hand that's just had the hand on it. And like some joints. The body, the face. The face is a bit more
Oh,
detailed.
my
I didn't
bad.
do the eyes and the nose, but basically you create every single thing separately, and then you end up making the robot assembly. Or I just think this this was a messed up one because it had joints that were like weird. So you just combine them together and you make like a little robot. This looks kind of creepy, but I was like, okay, so you gotta have like this is move like that, this move like that. So just learn. So that's what I'm gonna send Vinayak the link to Derek's tutorial. He can read it if he wants to, or you can read it if you want to, but I just want to have you just do the second task, which is create a robot. So for everyone
Yeah,
watching
okay.
along, if you weren't following along, or even if you were following along, first off, go make sure you learned everything. Then make just that weird shape I showed you here. Just mess around. Just get something. Just don't just use squares and circles. Use like ovals. Make holes. Maybe try like the revolve. The threading's a little complicated because you actually have to know how screws work. So I wouldn't try that, but I try everything else here. Then once you're done with that, make every single piece separate in a folder, in a project you call tutorial, in your own projects. Don't make it somewhere else. Make it in your own projects. So let me come up here. Because this is how we normally do stuff, is we just create all the parts separately. And I didn't make the arm and the hand together because it was just easier to add the joints in there rather than here, because I felt that would have looked better anyway, and it did. But just make a robot, adjust things slightly. You can make it off. That's basically it. These basic shapes. And actually, Rover Ruckus. This is completely when Derek did it. He gave me access to this though. Oh, he did Academy. What a nerd. No. I am a nerd as well. That is the joke. Main model. So as you can see, he had a little less organized because it was just him. But I mean, as you can see, each assembly was different. Let me load assembly 10, even though I've never loaded this assembly. So I can kind of show you. He has the base, then the wheels, then some details, and then, you start off basic because the basics don't really change unless you change the whole robot. But then as you go on, you don't have to keep it to a theme, Okay, like, let's say you got 5 new parts, add them all as another thing. Now, if they're small parts or they're updates, that's different. But 5, you got the tape dispenser, or you got this little servo now that's new, not like a replacement. Do that, or if you remove something, then do that as well. Because that's also a bit cool if you could, because to me it's also cool because you could basically take this and then make an animation at the same angle for every single one of them as it going up. And you could time it to a song with a beat, where every beat or whatever was a new iteration. So once this loads, I'll show you again that it's basically just basic parts. But so make this, don't make it in your team if you're part of our thing. Don't make it in your team folder. It should say your name on the top left. As you can see, it says Aiden, my last name. Hopefully I will remember to block that out in my editing software. Okay, this is definitely being slow. Oh, I just realized I'm gonna have to render this, even though all I'm gonna do is block out my name. I'm still gonna have to take a year to render it. Okay. So as you can see here, I think he made these custom, and that's probably custom as well. But it's basically taking parts, combining them smally, taking parts, taking small parts, combining them together, then combining those together, and combining those together, and then you end up with this really cool looking thing. Don't know what this is, but it looks cool. You know, I think that's pretty much it. Vinayak, do you have any
All
questions?
right, I finished my smiley face. You can go check it out.
All right, let's check it out. So, oh wait, it's lagging
I
again.
saved it in my folder.
You see, he's smart. He's saving his folder. If you want to copy a file to another project or another folder, you can just, well, first off, save it wherever you want to save it, and then hit save as. So save it first in there, and then hit save it. I can actually show you. So come here and then just hit save as, and then this will let you just change its location. You know, I could change it here, or here, or here. That's just the idea. Close this, close this. So then you can come up here, click. Okay, so it says teams you're a member of, and then here. So you make your tutorial folder in here, or like, so if you're not a part of our team, make your tutorial folder here, because, you know,
Nothing's popping up for me. It still shows that you're on the, grid. It's not showing the teams you're a part of. It's not showing the data panel.
What do you mean?
Like on your screen, it's just not showing the data panel.
I mean, I'm seeing it on my for Discord. I see it. Am I recording?
I don't know. I'm not for some reason.
My,
Like, I can see you moving your fan.
my,
I can see you moving your cursor. All right, no, now I can see it. For some reason, I was zoomed in. That was so weird.
I mean, you're on mobile. That's probably why. It's because
Yeah,
it's zoomed
probably
in.
why.
All right. Anyway, don't
Huh.
think it was rude for you. By the way, that was perfectly fine to shoot a question. So you come here, single user storage. That's my account. Teams. You get, if you're part of, I don't know, Langley Robotics as well. For you're on 2 teams, or you're part of a company now as well. But you're a mentor. So what this allows you to do is just, if you're not a part of our team or your team doesn't have a tutorial, make it in here. If you are part of our team and you're added, make it here, and we'll add you to the tutorial folder. And then please do not touch anything that's not yours. Keep this, file right here, because it's not meant for, just leave it there. I'll make it and I'll call it files to view. And then I'll just drag, and I'll wait. So yeah, you can come here, move files to view, double click, move. It's gone. Students work. Items moved successfully. Vinayak. Tutorial. See, it's grayed out even though I was looking at it before because he updated it. So now he has a smiley face. Look at this. He got some text. You used the text thing, right? You didn't just create like a shape.
What? No, yeah, I just used the text thing on create.
He even used like the loft and rib features, and fillet, and basically
Yeah.
what those that you do is smooth it out. So he's got like a dope smiley face. So I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. So Vinayak, do you want to create a robot?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
All right. So then, if you're watching, you can, if you're not a part of our team, you can do this however you really want to. However, if you are part of Herndon Robotics, what you should do is you should create your own robot. I'll give you the link in the description to Derek's tutorial. But create your own robot, and then once you create your little smiley face, you can even use this as the face. Once you create that smiley face, you can just go from there.
I totally will use this as the face.
I mean, it looks really cool.
I'm gonna change the name though.
Oh yeah, you can just change names by renaming it. Just right-clicking, hit rename. I can name it tutorial. Shoot. But be mindful. Don't just do that to other people's stuff. But the reason I'm trying to switch people over to teams is because I can basically make it so manipulators can't go into, like, I don't know, controls, or BAMP can't go into controls unless they're part of both teams. So like, I can make it only so Vinayak can view controls. Actually, he's on controls. So I can make it so Vinayak can only view BAMF, and BAMF can only view controls. But since Vinayak's the captain, I'd give him permission to edit the general assembly, because only like captains and maybe very trustworthy people can edit the general assembly. Because if something happens, I'd want more people who are trained in this to do it. I'd much rather have a lot less people doing that than have something cause an error with so many people on it. Because I'll probably end up having all the people who are called and trustworthy enough for this called into a meeting with the captains and tell them, okay, listen, here's how we operate teams for this, because you need to make sure that everything goes well, because unless we can track it back to someone, if something happens in a folder, it's that subgroup's fault, because I can actually even pull it up too. Actually, I'm not going to pull it up because that'll show some people's names, but I can basically say, if this person's set to view, only people who can do it are other captains. It's one of your own people's fault. But yeah, so access request. I don't know why. I think it's like had a glitch, even though I'm an admin. But basically, that's why we're switching over. It just lets us change things and modify things. I kind of wish I could be even more micromanagement and do that in folders and not in projects, because each one of these has to be a project now, which is a little annoying, that every single one is a project. And this may change depending on what Mr. Eamon says. I just named him. I'm sure it's fine. But yeah, so if that's it, you can leave questions on Slack or in the comments. I'll try to answer them. And coming up shortly, one of my friends in FTC or FRC or just in First in general told me about how they have a what's it called? They're going to be holding a CAD thing soon, so I will be posting that announcement on Slack and letting people know, because this tutorial should go live today, and people should have all the time in the world to practice. Anyway, I think that's it. I really don't see anything else. Air quality.
Fairly informative.
This has been, so far, an hour and 30 minutes long. It's a long tutorial, I know, but I personally think this is better because people can watch it then.
Dude, Aiden, you should make like timestamps and stuff, like when you're going over stuff.
I should definitely do that.
So that way people don't spend a whole hour and 30 minutes sifting through your information.
True. I think I can do. That new feature. I'm gonna suffer. All right, wait. First, before we talk to Vinayak about this, thank you for watching. Yeah. So I'll expect maybe more cat tutorials on the Herndon Robotics YouTube channel. Have a good one.